So today's session is specifically about building your 4 key functions over here. We're going to start just by going through and talking about the dashboard a little bit, just to kind of remind everybody on how TouchStone is organized and what some of the key functions are. And then we're going to delve directly into the 4 key functions here. Usually how the sessions will go is I'll talk about technically how to do things, and then I'll talk strategically how to do things, like not just how to build your 4 key functions, but different strategies for building it, pitfalls and places you might go off, and a good ways to do things, a good way not to do things. Then at the end of every session, I'm going to highlight a process from our library, from our process library. For this spring technical training series, the theme is going to be management. And the question we're going to be asking and answering inside of every session is, how do you get your employees to follow processes? That's not just a business owner that needs to ask themselves that. It's also a manager, all managers on the line. How do you get your employees to follow procedure? How do you get them to participate in that fully? To help you with innovation, to accept it, to use processes. Because at the end of the day, if your employees aren't using your processes, if your managers aren't using them to train, they're worthless, right? You do all this work and effort to build SOPs, but then if they're not being used, then in a way it's for naught. So TouchStone's got some amazing tools in it that helps you in this endeavor. And there are some key things that, again, I'm going to be highlighting in each section on how to get your processes to be used. So what we're looking at right now is called the dashboard. And this is what people see when they first log in. If you've got your control panels set up, whoever you log in as, you'll see that control panel position right here. So in this example, I am the manager of admin finance. And because I'm a manager, I see these people down here below in this section called management review. If you're not a manager and you log into TouchStone, you'll see just your control panel here and not this section. The higher we go on the org chart, logged me out. That's going to dictate what I can see inside a management review. So for example, if I'm the owner up here, if I've been assigned this control panel, then I can see inside of everybody's control panels through management review. If I'm the manager of marketing and sales, I have this control panel, then I can see inside of all of these positions control panels. So let's go back. All of this is controlled through account administration, which is in the upper right-hand corner of the screen here. And I'll just pop into there real quickly. So this is account administration. And this is where you set up your users for TouchStone. If you don't see a control panel assigned when you log in on your dashboard, then come here and add users. If you do have everyone added, but you haven't assigned them a control panel yet, that's simply right here. So you see their name, go right across from it and click here, control panel. I think this is a good thing to do automatically, no matter what stage you are in your development of your SOPs. Assign control panels, assign your employees to their control panels. So you see it here in management review. What the dashboard is about is it's all about giving access to your employees. So allowing them to be able to access the processes that they're accountable for and use them, follow them. So this functionality here on the dashboard is for training. It's for employees being able to remind themselves of what to do. It gives them access to their processes. When your employees log in, the interface is simplified quite a bit. So they won't see the 4 key functions. They'll see the org chart, but they'll only be able to click on a position that they have access to. So it's important to know that, because you don't want to overwhelm your employees with a lot of things that they don't really need to know how that works and why it exists. They need to just be able to click their position and go right to their processes. So we're going to be talking a lot more about the dashboard each session as we go through. But as a step one, if you haven't set up control panels yet, go ahead and do it. If you haven't added users, your employees' names, go ahead and do that. We're still giving every account unlimited users. It's something we started during the pandemic, and I haven't heard word that that's stopping, but all of you for sure have unlimited users. So there's no reason for you not to add your employees. Over here to the right is this area called public processes. So we're going to have a section of one session all about public processes. But what I want to say about this right now is that these processes you see listed here, they should be public, like company-wide. They should be every employee has access to these because every employee is accountable for these processes. So you don't want to have processes here in this public folder that are the accountability of one position or one department. You want to make sure that these are truly processes that are company-wide, like everybody needs to have access to them. If you look at your public folder here and you see 50 processes, well, I'm going to guess that you've been putting things in there that aren't necessarily public. The problem with that is if you just stick it in the public folder, then nobody knows who's accountable for what. They all just see them here. So I don't know, like this is my responsibility, but no one else's. I think the reason people do this is because they're not fully utilizing the control panel here. So you're just sticking these public processes there so you can see them when you log in. When you assign them to the correct roles on the org chart, the processes, when somebody clicks one click into their control panel, well, now I see all of my processes in these neat little groups, and I can click here, now I see all of them here. I can click planning, now I see all of them here. This is a much better way to organize the processes and have them available for use. You can drag and drop, reorganize, you can do these little groups, and then that makes it a lot more user-friendly than just having a list just all stuck right here. In the upper right-hand corner of the screen, you saw me go to account administration. This little icon right here takes you to user settings. So right on this screen, you can change your email login. You can also reset your password if you want to. One tip here, make sure that your username is an actual email address. Clearly, this one is not. The reason is this new functionality we have over here on the dashboard called process assignment. This sends notifications to people's emails. So if your username is not a real email address, then those notifications, your employees aren't going to get those. The last thing I'll point out here is the Resource Center. So this is our help desk, and it's always in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. There's an effort going on right now to embed it into the screens in TouchStone, so you'll see that coming soon in the next few weeks. But now, if you have a question, you forgot how to do something, this user guide section has a step-by-step for everything, all in these nice little squares. It then has, what is this particular area, like what is management review, and then a step-by-step for how to do everything in it. You'll find little videos and a lot of screenshots. So remember the TouchStone Resource Center. Okay, let's go back. All right, so I'm going to go over here to the left and I'm going to click the 4 key functions. And then I'm going to select just this first key function called guiding the business. So what the 4 key functions is it's a outline of all of your processes listed out in a hierarchy. So every process you add to TouchStone, no matter where you add it, is always going to be here on the 4 key functions. So it's a master list of all of your processes. We have the hierarchy start with these, what we call 4 key functions. So it's kind of like looking at your business as a whole and like cutting it into 4 parts. So 4 subjects. So the first subject is guiding the business, and guiding the business is for managerial, strategic, reporting, development. It's the processes you use to guide your company and your people. Getting the business is for marketing and sales. So marketing strategy, generating leads, and converting those leads. Everything you do around getting new business. Running the business is your office processes. So this is finance, administration, human resources, IT. It's often thought of as the support processes. So the processes that support the whole business and make it more efficient. Doing the business is your operations. So this is the delivering of your products or services. Everything that you do to deliver your products and services on time, every time. So this is how we define these 4 key areas of any business. If having said that, if you don't like these key function titles, like you find them confusing or they just don't make sense to you, this toolbar item right here will allow you to change them. So you click edit function title, and then I would just put in the new name, and then I hit save. And now you can see that it's changed right here, new name. So the only thing I'll suggest here is to try to keep the same themes, because when you're looking at your business as a whole, there's only 4 key functions. You're going to cut it into 4 parts. So it should go along with the general theme that we've laid out here. For example, you wouldn't want to call this one sales and then this one advertising, because then you're going to run out of key functions. Next, toolbar item over here to the right is called subfunctions. So I'm going to go here to the left and collapse this right here. And now you can see my subfunctions. This expand collapse is handy to use if you've got a lot of subfunctions and a lot of processes within those subfunctions, because you can see I can just click here and it goes up and down. It's particularly useful when you want to reorder your subfunctions, because I can then pull this up and then pull the others down. If I have it expanded, then I have to drag up a lot more than is necessary. The subfunctions within each key function are categories of work inside of that key function. So this is doing the business, this is operations, service delivery, and these are subfunctions or categories related to that. Let's start here back with guiding the business. Typically in guiding the business, I would see something around these. So management or employee management, strategy, like business strategy, board meetings, board of director meetings, strategy sessions, employee management, and training. So think about your categories of work in guiding the business and then create those sub areas. So to add a subfunction, I click here, subfunctions, and then I just choose create. Then I put in the name of the new subfunction, and then I just hit save. Simple. And then that subfunction falls down here to the bottom. If you want to edit the ones that exist, you just choose edit. Easy as that. Hit this drop down, choose the one that you want to edit, and then retype it and hit save. You can also delete subfunctions. TouchStone's not going to let you delete subfunctions that have processes in them. So this new one I just added has no processes in it. I can easily delete that one, but these are telling me you can't delete this because it has processes in it. So what you'll have to do if you really want to delete a subfunction is go to that subfunction or that area and drag and drop all the processes out of it. Drag up until it's empty, and then you'll be able to delete it. The purpose of the subfunctions is to help you to organize your processes into categories. That's the sole purpose. I kind of feel like the more subfunctions, the better, because especially if you have a lot of processes, because you can categorize them a little bit easier. It makes it easier to find and see things. Here in the 4 key functions, we don't care about who's doing what here. Like we don't care about what employee is supposed to be doing one-on-one meetings or who is responsible for evaluations. All we care about is the subject. We need these management processes. Where we care about who does what is over here on the org chart. So think of the subfunctions as categories, as subjects, and not as work people do. Inside of getting the business, I think these, I'm just going to collapse this again. I think these are pretty common. So you would have like a marketing strategy subfunction. That would be for your strategic marketing processes, like developing a marketing plan or your advertising plan. You would have an advertising or lead generation. So through all those marketing activities, what are the different avenues that you use or processes you use to generate leads? Then you have sales, the conversion of those leads, everything related to that. If you're a construction or production company, you might have estimating, you might consider that part of getting the business. Now, some uh, different types of companies think that estimating is more a part of operations. So where's the right place to put it? Is it part of getting or is it a part of operations? The bottom line is it doesn't really matter. You choose where you think it belongs the most. So think about that work and what department or what area would you put it in. At the end of the day, where things are in the four key functions doesn't matter a whole lot because every single one of these processes is linked to a position on the org chart here. And then when your employees come into TouchStone to use the processes, they're not even coming here to the four key functions. In fact, they don't even see it unless they're an administrator. All they care about is what's on their job description, the processes that they're responsible for. The four key functions is a strategic tool. It's meant for you to be able to brainstorm all the processes you need and organize them into categories. It's like making a map of your business. You're looking at it objectively, kind of from above, as the entrepreneur saying, what is the structure of this company? And it can be cathartic in a certain way because you typically are used to just stuff happening, people doing work, busy, 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 all the things that happen in a small business. This is looking at it in a whole new way. You're structuring it, you're making it, you're putting its pieces together. Running the business, click there. And I'm just going to collapse this again. These are the kind of sub-functions that I would normally see here. Finance, financial management, maybe for higher level finance systems like profit sharing or budgeting, recruiting and hiring. Just a general human resource sub-function. Information technology, all of your computer processes you need, administration, definitely. And then operations, this used to be called doing the business before I changed it. I'll just collapse this again. So we have things like material control, client service or customer service, production management, operations management, service management, depends on what kind of business you have. Warehouse, if you have a warehouse, delivering of your services. So here, think about the categories of work that your industry or your type of business needs. If you're a restaurant or you're a bookstore or you're a construction company, you're doing the business, your operations is going to look vastly different from the other. So you have to think specifically about your business and then construct these categories that make sense. We've seen every industry known to man inside of TouchStone. So if you're struggling with what are good sub-functions for my operations key function or doing the business, just send us an email and we'll give you some tips or advice on it. Next to sub-functions, we have processes. So this is where you go to create and delete processes. So when I want to add a process, I hit create, and then I'm going to put in the name of the process. And then TouchStone's asking me which sub-function does this go in. So if I hit the drop down, then I'll see my sub-functions. I choose the one I want to put it in, and then I just hit save. Easy. So adding processes is all that happens right through here. If you want to delete a process, there's two ways to do that. You can go here to processes and choose delete, and then hit the drop down here, and then go to the process that you want to delete. Let's delete this one, and then you hit delete. And now that process is gone. Another way to delete a process is to select it and then go here and delete it. So you can go to the process itself and delete it, or you can delete it from the front of the four key functions here. Only administrators can delete. So know that people who you make administrators inside of admin over here, they can go and delete things. If you accidentally delete something or one of your administrators accidentally deletes something, we can always recover it for you, like nothing is gone forever. But just be mindful of who you make an administrator because they can go in and do anything inside of TouchStone. To the right of processes is our library. So the process library has got a list of example processes in it. So here, these are grayed out because they're already in this demo account. In fact, after sessions, people sometimes email me and say, well, I saw this process in your demo account. Can I have that process? Well, the answer is everything you see in my demo account is in the library already. So you can go to the library and download it. So here we have a list of example processes. If you want to add one, you just click this little tick button. You can go up here and choose the subfunction you want it in. And then you just hit copy. Easy. Then TouchStone takes that process and moves it into your account. Every key function, every one of the 4 key functions has its own library. So we were over here in doing the business. Now we're in guiding the business. So if I go here to the library, general, now I see a whole list of additional processes. These processes are related to guiding the business. So they're employee management type things, business strategy, their training processes. Same idea though, if you want to add the process, you just tick off the box and then put it into the correct subfunction and then just hit copy. So pull down library processes that you think would be good to give you a head start in the documenting of that process. You'll find a lot of great things in the guiding and the getting and the running key functions because these key functions in any business tend to be pretty generic. I know every industry is a little bit different, but the things that one business needs to do to manage their employees are very similar to what other businesses need to do. Same for getting the business. Marketing strategy is marketing strategy. If there's a template for that, then you create a strategy for your business. Sales clearly can be different based on the industry you're in, but somewhat similar. And then running the business, finance, administration, all those things are very similar. So in these key functions, you'll find some great stuff in the library. It's in operations over here or doing the business. That'll be a little more tricky. And our library here has some good processes in it, but there is probably not as many as these other key functions. Having said that, we have a new AI feature inside of TouchStone that can help you with industry-specific processes. So let's go to this one. And I'm going to go over this again when we talk about the process tools where I've just clicked now. If you go here to a work plan, so this is an ongoing meeting agenda form for labor management and productivity. If I hit this, generate work plan with AI, I can put in a prompt, create a step-by-step for, and I put in a prompt, labor management in a production company or labor management and an HVC company, labor management in a restaurant. And then if you hit go, it's then going to generate a step-by-step using ChatGPT, and then you can add it to your process. So again, we're going to go over this in way more detail, but for any processes that you were wishing were in the library, but they're not, you can use the AI to get an example of something. So examples are great, right? Process library is great. ChatGPT is great, but sometimes it's just more of more of more. So the question becomes, how much content is necessary? Like how much more do you need? Get an example, use that example, edit it down, make it your own. That's the perfect scenario. But to download everything from the library, to go to ChatGPT and put every prompt in and put all that information in, it's like it's just an abundance of information. it has to be quality information. It has to be something that you really can use in your business. With the implementation or the creation of ChatGPT and other AI tools, we've actually seen a spike in business because of it, because of this fact that people are creating a lot of content and there's no way to organize it and to make sure that you're using it correctly. So TouchStone's perfect for that, right? Because it's organizing it into categories. It's then creating these great job descriptions where employees can go in and see it all and use it. So that whole speech was to say, make sure that what you download from the library or what you create with the AI is something that you're really going to use. It's something that you feel committed to editing, making your own, and implementing, giving it to your employees and making sure that they use it. On this topic of how to get employees to use processes, they have to be relevant, right? They have to be worthwhile. It has to be something that you really believe in and that you're willing to put your foot down and say, this is the way people are going to do it. So for these library processes that you download here, make sure you look through every single one. If you download it, then click it right away after you downloaded it. Look through the work plan here, look through scripts, look through the content, and ask yourself, is this something that we're going to be editing, implementing, and using in the next 6 months? So use the 6-month mark. If you think that customer complaint process is a good idea, but you don't have any hope of getting this implemented and used in the next 6 months, go ahead and delete it. It will put it back into the library. So any library process that you download and then you delete, TouchStone puts it back into the library. So you could go down 6 months from now and download it. So here you can delete, or you can go back to the 4 key functions to delete. The very last thing you want to do is have your 4 key functions cluttered up with a bunch of library processes that you really just don't even know what they're there for. It seemed like a good idea in the beginning, but now, other things are taking more of a priority. It's better to have like the top 20% of what you do documented and ready to go, and then you can start to add things rather than having the 80% that you probably have now. So use this, if you're in this situation, use this as an opportunity to go back to your 4 key functions and just clean it up a bit. So if you've had your TouchStone account for a while now and you've got quite a few processes on your 4 key functions, maybe you've already created job descriptions and you're using some of them, but there's maybe a lot on the 4 key functions that just hasn't been touched in a while. I would suggest that you start at the beginning. So go back to guiding the business just to start. Click the first process on the list and read it over. Is this a good process? Do you want to use this? Are you committed to like documenting it and implementing it in the next 6 months? If the answer is yes, then one last thing, go and make sure it's on all the right job descriptions just by clicking this little link here. There, it's on this one. Okay, so let's say that that's what I intended. Close this out, hit the back button, and then go to the next process. This one's next. Okay, is this a good process? Is this something that we're going to implement and use? You like it? Okay, we're going to use this in the next 6 months. Go and make sure it's on the right job descriptions. And then hit the back button. And then do the next one. So we're spending maybe 5-10 seconds of process here. We're verifying that these are acceptable, that they are, I know what this is, and I know I want to use it. We're making sure it's on all the right job descriptions. But let's say you get to this and you're like, I don't even know what a daily huddle is. We don't do that in our business. Maybe it might be something great in the future, but it's not, I can't think about it right now. Then delete it right here, click, and it's gone. But it's not gone forever. It goes back into the library. So now I can go here to the library and download it 6 months from now if I want to. If you're afraid of documenting processes, so let's say your scenario is that your 4 key functions is very cluttered, there's a lot of stuff on it, you like it all, and you want to just organize it a bit so that so you can make an attempt at going and documenting every process over time. But there are all these processes that maybe they aren't something you're going to do in the next 6 months, but you don't want to delete them. And I know there are people out there like that, which is fine. What I would do is create a subfunction and call it something like use later. whatever you want to call it. Remember, the four key functions is not something everybody sees. This is like for administrators to play around with. So now I have this subfunction right here, use later. So then just take the processes and put them into this category, into the use later category. So I just drag these ones that I'm not really clear about right now, but I might use them later, and put them all right here. Then go to the next key function. And let's say there's stuff on getting the business that you want to use later. You could take that, drag it up over here on top of guiding the business, let go, hit the drop down, send it to use later, move. So you could do a use later inside of all four of the four key functions if you want to. It's probably, or you can combine them like you just saw me do. So I've got this one key function here or subfunction called use later, and then I'm moving all of those processes that I'm just not quite sure about, but I'm not ready to delete into that area. And then essentially they're kind of hidden, but you can come back to them later if you want to. Along with explaining this, I've also showed you how to take a process and move it from one key function to another. So any process that's inside of any key function, all you have to do is drag it. I'm just holding my mouse down, put it over the top of the one I want to move it into. Then it's going to show you the subfunctions in that category. So here's all of the subfunctions. Choose the one that you want to move it into and then hit move. You've also been seeing me drag and drop processes. So these just pull up and down. I'm dragging them from one subfunction to the other. I can also take a subfunction and reorder that. Okay. So that's my 2 cents on the library. Use what you want from that, but make sure you're really scrutinizing every process, looking at it, making sure you want it. If you're in the situation where you haven't looked at your four key functions in a while and you know it needs some cleanup, just do this step-by-step approach where you click every process, analyze it, and then go back. Analyze it and go back. And that way, in very short order, you'll have cleaned up processes that you don't want, and you've also verified that every process is on the right job description because of this little feature here where I'm looking to see, what job descriptions is this on? And here I can link it and unlink it from a job description. Okay. Throughout the four key functions here, some of you have probably noticed the color coding that exists here. So here's a red process. I'm just going to drag this one up so you can see it. A red process means that there's nothing in it. So it's just a title. So if I click this by nothing in it, this is what I mean. There's nothing here. The documentation hasn't been started for this process yet. Someone just put in the title. Once you start documenting it, TouchStone will turn the process blue, like this one. So this is a sign that this process has got something in it, but it's not finished yet, like the documentation isn't done. And then black is something you do manually to mark the process as complete, like you've finished it, the documentation is done, it's ready to go. So to mark a process as complete, it's right here, this little check mark. So you can turn a process black and complete it just by clicking this, or you can also uncheck it if you want to, so that it's not completed. So use this color coding to kind of help you with the status of your processes. It's kind of nice to organize them in order of priority too. Like I can put everything that's done kind of down here at the bottom, all the black processes that I've finished. The blue ones, I can put them in order of how I want to tackle them. And so you would look something like this, where I would just be ticking off these processes one at a time, documenting them, having them ready for use, and then turning them black, which signifies that the documentation is done. It's a satisfying feeling going through and marking this as done, because you can see kind of your progress as you go forward. Any questions about that? No. I have one question. All right. Yeah, you're just someone's asking if any of the processes are preloaded. So I think what you mean, they're not it. So if you have a brand new TouchStone account, it's not going to have any processes in it. The subfunctions you'll have examples of the subfunctions. So I think each key function when you first start your account will have some example subfunctions, but you can just go here at any time and edit those to something different if you don't like them, but there will be no processes in your account. In a sense, they could be preloaded though, because I could go here to the library and download a whole process with all of its content. So you, in very short order, you can fill your account with example processes if you wanted to. In fact, I was on the phone with a new user a few days ago. They had nothing in their account. And in about 20 minutes, we went to every one of the 4 key functions, went to the library, downloaded about 5 to 10 processes in each area, and they had like something to work with. Like they already had a few processes that could be implemented and ready to go. So that's the way, in a sense, that you preload it, I guess. So let's talk about naming processes for a minute. You'll notice in my demo account right here, my process titles are short. They're 1, 2, 3 words at the most because they're titles, like we're naming something for what it is. We're not describing what it is in a sentence or a phrase. So if you're looking through your 4 key functions and you're seeing that, then I'd suggest that you reverse that. So go to that process and shorten it to a name or a title. Typically, when you're naming, normal naming convention would say that every letter of every word, the first letter of every word should be capitalized, like employee evaluations, employee termination. You can do the on or the and or the it of it in lowercase if you want to, but structure it like a title. Don't do all caps or don't do all lowercase because you may like that, but the policing of that will get difficult if you have different people in your TouchStone account helping you build things. So I suppose if you just really love all caps, you could say every process title is going to be all caps and just make sure that everyone's doing it that way, which takes this policing, or go with just normal naming convention, which is the first letter of every word. If you see any titles that are a sentence or a phrase, then go to that process. Now, underneath the process title here, we have this field called the objective. This process contains instructions for how to conduct employee performance evaluations annually, as well as 30, 90, I should say 60, but anyway, you get the idea. So this objective is the purpose of the process. It is a phrase or a sentence which describes what's in the process. So if you've had someone naming processes and they're naming them in more this style, usually I see like a short sentence or a phrase with like 6 words in it, then this is the place for that, not the title. So I would take it from the title, cut and paste it into the objective, and then name the process. So think of what is the clear and concise name. If you can't name it, it's going to be very difficult to document it. So really push yourself to name it. And it's not, I mean, I laugh about it, but it's not necessarily always easy to come up with what is the name of this. Oftentimes work is just snowballed and people are doing it. Maybe they're doing it really well for the last 10 years, but to sit down and name it is hard for some reason. So think about what the work that is happening in that process, kind of go through it in your mind from beginning to end, and then try to think of the result. So how would you name that result in a short title? You can go to the library and get a lot of examples. Another tip is try to put the subject first and the verb or the adjective second. So this says cash flow planning. It doesn't say planning cash flow. This says manage philosophy development. It doesn't say developing a management philosophy. That's more like a sentence, developing. So anytime you have an ing on something, I think you could title that a little bit better by making it not descriptive, but more just straightforward. Another thing in the four key functions around naming processes that's challenging is deciding what is a subfunction and what is a process, and then what is a work plan inside of a process. So let's go to this process. Inside of every process, there are tools that we use to document the process with. We actually call them process tools. All the tools, you see them all listed here to the left, are templates. They're structures for the documented process. Not every process uses every single one of these tools. You're meant to really decide what is the best structure for the process. Having said that, most every process will have a work plan, at least one. So this is a work plan. And a work plan is just a step-by-step set of instructions or tasks, steps on how to do or set up a performance evaluation in this example. So a work plan is a step-by-step set of actions that someone needs to follow in order to get the result of this process. Now, sometimes processes have more than one work plan because there's more than one thing that happens, or there's more than one workflow, or there's more than one, there's like a sub result that occurs where I do a series of steps and then I stop, and then maybe even the next day, the next week, I do the other series of steps. All of it is related to employee evaluations, though. So everything related to employee evaluations, how to do a 30-day one, how to do a 60-90 one, how to create the form. This is all related to employee evaluations, but they have different workflows. And if we had put it all in one work plan, you would have a work plan that maybe had 50 to 100 tasks on it, and it doesn't necessarily flow in a step-by-step order because I'm doing a series of things first and then another set of things later. So think about the sub areas or the different workflows that might exist in that process. Now, some processes are very straightforward, and the title of it is employee evaluations, and it has one work plan in it called employee evaluations, and it has a simple step-by-step. You're going to run across that, which is great because it's simple. But other more complicated processes could have multiple work plans like this one does. This one has 4 in it. So again, back to the question, what is a subfunction? What is a process? And then what is a work plan within a process? And how do you know? So this is one of the more challenging things of creating your 4 key functions. There are some rules around it or some guidelines, which I'll give you, but it's not always that way. So it's a bit of a creative process. And at the end of the day, you decide, you decide how you want to categorize things. So the 4 key functions, remember, is guiding, strategy and management, getting, which is getting new business, advertising, sales, running, office processes, organization, finance, IT, HR, and then doing, which is the delivering of your services, everything related to operations. So then if we go in and break it down further, we're thinking of subfunctions or categories. Now, management is a great subfunction inside of guiding the business. If I had a process called management, then you could see how unruly that would become. Like, I can't have a process that has everything related to management in it. It would have 50 work plans and it would just be so complicated and overwhelming. So clearly, management is a higher level area. It's a category. Same with like advertising. Like, we wouldn't have a process and call it advertising because you can see every process or work that we do around advertising, like there's a lot of things, and that is way too broad for a process title. So you'll get some ideas in guiding and getting and running specifically because you've seen or you've heard me talk about the sub-functions that are in here, and you'll get some examples of those. It's in operations where it gets a little complicated because you then have to decide, based on your industry. So this is material control. So here's a question to ask yourself. Is there more than one thing that happens, major thing that happens within material control? Is there more than one major thing that happens related to client service? Well, clearly, yes. So then that becomes a subfunction. That's a category, which is a subfunction. If the subfunction is going to have more than 3 processes in it, I think it's a valid subfunction. If you have a subfunction that only has 2 processes in it or 3 processes, you might think, could I combine that with something else? Because you don't want to have too many subfunctions with just a few processes within them. So, and again, if you have any questions about this, you can definitely email us and we'll give you some advice. So subfunctions. Then how about processes? So here's an example. This is a process called accounts payable. And if I click this process, within it, I've got 4 work plans. So this is paying bills, ensure that all bills are paid on time and in the company's interest. We pay bills through invoices, special invoices, credit card and ACH payments, and check payments. So these are the 4 ways that we pay bills, and they're all different, right? So they have different work plans. If I had created a process, instead, I created a subfunction that said accounts payable. So this was the subfunction, and then these were the processes within it. That'd be another way to do it. But what that would cause is my 4 key functions list to get very long, right? It's going to quadruple the amount of processes that you have. So it's best to combine like things. So think about the action of paying bills, the action of collecting your receivables, the action of checklists at year end, purchasing, and then think of the sub areas within that. Now, having said all this, if you've done what I've described, where accounts payable is all 4 processes as opposed to just being 1 process with 4 work plans, it's easy to combine things. So I could take a work plan like this one out of this process and move it into another process using this tool right here. So if you are suffering from this phenomena of having way too many process titles, oops, I'm just going to click back again, then consider combining things. I feel like the less processes, the better, because it's just less to deal with. It's easier to find things in a sense because you don't have so many of those things. So look for combining. Here's another example too under recruiting and hiring is the subfunction. And then within recruiting and hiring, we're interviewing people, we're onboarding people, we're getting their agreements together. So everything related to interviewing is inside of this process. Everything related to onboarding and orientation is inside of this process. If you've not done it that way, and maybe you've have 20 processes under recruiting and hiring, then consider combining. But here's where the complication come in. The opposite could also be true. You could have created a process that's got way too much in it. So maybe I created a process and called it recruiting and hiring. And then within that, I had 10 work plans. So look and see, what if you've got too much inside of one process or the opposite, you don't have enough inside of a process. And again, we're always here to help. So if all of this is confusing you and it's not making sense, then just put in a support request or send me an email directly and we'll sit down and go over your 4 key functions with you and give you some input. Okay, so we're going to talk about the process of the week here in a second. But before I do that, I just want to now that we've discussed the 4 key functions and what this is, I want to give you kind of a global look of how the 4 key functions is used in the end. So what happens to all these processes inside of TouchStone? So they're all listed here in the 4 key functions and organized into categories. Then we have the org chart, which is what we're going to be talking about next week. And what happens on the org chart is every process here from the 4 key functions gets linked to one box or another on the org chart. So every single process over here will get attached in a way to these boxes on the chart. And that creates this comprehensive list of what each position is responsible for. So every one of these processes here is on the 4 key functions list in one place or another. And using this toolbar item here or going to the process itself and using this toolbar item, I have linked this process to its appropriate positions on the org chart. So that's where we get down to the nitty-gritty of this, which is who does what, who's accountable for what, and then all those processes are linked. On the dashboard, if somebody has a control panel for a position, like the manager of admin finance, that control panel is going to allow them to access and view all of the processes we've listed here. So every process that's been listed to this job description, this position, then appears in the control panel for that position. So if I click here to the dashboard, and then I go here to this position, all those processes that were linked to that position on the org chart now appear here. They look a little different because I've organized them into categories. So you see all these are the same ones we were looking at over on the org chart. But I put them into these groups using this here, and I've organized them. So when the employee comes here, they can click this category, planning, management checklist, and then they can view these processes. So everything's listed on the 4 key functions in one key function or another. Then these processes are linked to the boxes on the org chart, which creates the list to what everyone's accountable for. And then the control panels are assigned for these positions, and people at the end of the day access them here through the dashboard. This is going to click even more once we kind of get a little bit further into the sessions. By the way, everything here through the dashboard is read-only. So when your employees come to the dashboard and they're clicking in their control panels, they can't edit or change anything here through the dashboard. If something needs to be edited or changed, you need to go to the 4 key functions and access it through here, or go to the org chart and click the job description, the box on the chart, and click it from there. You have to have the right level of access to do it. So let's go to the process of the week. So I'm in guiding the business right here. And I said in the beginning of this that I'm really going to be focusing on processes that I believe help you to make sure that people are following your SOPs, that they're following the structure that you're creating, that they're being trained in these processes. So I feel like a lot of projects or things that we develop in life have to start with a vision of some kind. You have to have an idea of what it is that you want to do, and then take the steps to make it happen. Management is no different. So starting with your view, your philosophy on management can be a really great thing to consider, because if your philosophy on management is that all employees are treated kindly, that all employees are following processes, maybe all employees get thorough training, all employees are valued, all employees are held accountable to what they've been trained on. So all of these mindsets or these beliefs, and you put it into, you document it, and then you announce it to your employees and say, this is our philosophy on management, this is what we believe in, then the managers in your business are going to know what you expect of them, and they're going to understand it. They're going to understand the vision for it. You can also then start saying, is this incident or this thing that's happening, is that a part of our management philosophy? Do we really, is that one of the tenets of what we believe is healthy and good for management? If it's not, then you know it has to be dealt with. If it is, then you congratulate it and say, wow, this is a wonderful thing that you're doing as a manager. Why this is so important is there's a new statistic out that said that I think 85% of the time employees quit because of bad management. So you spend all this great time and effort bringing your employees in, training them, paying them, and then one bad manager can ruin it all. And they leave, and their vision of what their job was in your business is not what you want it to be. So it all starts with a good management philosophy. So this process, you can be downloaded from the library here inside of Getting the Business. I'm just going to click on it. It has a work plan here on how to develop or how to build a management philosophy. There's just a simple step-by-step here. I don't have time to play this, but this is a cool little snippet of a Michael Gerber presentation. For those of you who have read the E-Myth, Michael Gerber has a lot to say about management, but it's a clip from one of his videos talking about, the mistakes that business owners make with bad management. So here's a step-by-step. More importantly, there's some examples down here. Here's a document, the benefits of a good management philosophy. Sometimes you have to really understand the benefits before you're compelled to do it. So these are just some good ideas around why you should have one. And then there's some examples. So this actually comes from E-Myth, management philosophy, working guidelines. This one's what I would call probably long, more comprehensive. Here's a short and concise one. It can be as simple as this. Managers manage documented processes, not people. This is a fabulous tenet or a management philosophy. Your managers are there to manage the processes by which employees get results. They're not to manage the people. The people are difficult to deal with sometimes, but if you have a process to manage, you could help the employee to understand what work needs to be done and why without making it personal. Build trust and have integrity and demonstrate competence. So nobody can argue with any of this, but choose things that really, ring true for you. Get your managers in a room and sit and just have a brainstorming session about it. Get them all on the same page around what are the kind of managers that they want to be. How do they want employees to feel? If your managers all begin to manage the same way, or at least they have a shared vision of management, your employees are all going to feel that. They're all going to know, it doesn't matter what manager they're talking to, they're all coming from the same place. So download this process and play around with it. It doesn't have to be very complicated. You can come up with one sentence or phrase on a management philosophy. Then once you've done this, you can publish your completed management philosophy to the dashboard. So over here, I've got that right here. So it's been made a public process. And now this is truly a good public process, right? Because every employee needs to follow this. They need to be able to review it. It pertains to everybody who's being managed. So if I click on it, then I see just this one document, management philosophy. And any employee can come here. It can be assigned to an employee to follow. So I've added a little something extra to this just to kind of give you a sense of what's going to be coming in some of the upcoming technical trainings we're going to have, all related to this idea of how to get your employees to follow processes. Every single one of these guidelines here or philosophies can have a process that you put in place to make sure it happens. So build trust, have integrity, and demonstrate competence. This process, in order to get your managers to be able to do this, is called the one-on-one meeting process. That's in our library. Engage all stakeholders in setting ambitious goals, KPIs. Manage with empathy and accountability, the delegation process. So every single one of these ideals or goals or ways of being can have a process, a documented process to make sure that happens, that your managers can follow to make sure it happens. So it's not just you putting these ideas out there and you're, fancy whatever and saying, hey, everybody, this is what I believe in. It goes deeper than that because you can then really put processes in place to make it happen. So let's see, that is it. I think I have one more question. Exclamation. I don't know, I can't read what you wrote here, Jim. Let's see. I'm going to unmute your phone if that's okay. Hi.
Hello, how you doing?
Good. I can't read what you wrote for some reason, but tell me.
Well, let's say you're going to explain to somebody you want them to fill out a form,
Yeah.
and some areas of the form are discretionary about what you can say. In other words, let's say it's a job description that has to go on a permit. So
Hmm.
you want to explain to somebody how to put together or how to answer the questions on the permit.
Hmm.
Can you take a picture of the permit, show that little section, and then underneath it explain what goes in that section, and then take another picture of another area of the permit, and then explain what goes in that section as
Yeah.
part of your integrated process?
Yeah, for sure. So, let's see. I'll just go to an example here for you. Uh, let's go here. So inside of the process tools, and I was going to go to an example that has some screenshots in it, but for some reason I'm not finding it. Inside of each of the processes, there are tools that you can use to document the process with. And okay, here we go. So you could have a work plan like this one. So there's a step-by-step set of instructions. You can take a picture of your permit.
Right?
And then right here, I can drag and drop an image into the field. So you can say, probably what I do is take a picture of the permit and then maybe take a screen capture of it and then draw little arrows. Do you have a snipping tool that does that?
Yes,
Yeah.
everyone should, right?
Yeah. Every operating system has one. So you could take a picture of it and then do like a capture just one section of the permit and put a little arrow. And then you can insert the image into the field here, and then you can type in fill out this here.
And in the same respect, like you said before, you had inserted a Michael Gerber clip.
Yes, yeah.
So
Um,
let's say we're in the HVAC business, right? So you're
mhm.
going to have a technician that's going to need to learn how to do something.
Yep.
So there are a lot of YouTube videos in the world that do a great job of explaining on a technical level how to do a particular task.
Yeah.
So in the middle of our process, can we link to somebody else's YouTube video?
Yeah. I'll start from the beginning. So you highlight the link word, you say, watch this video, and you highlight that whole word. Then you go here to this link chain and then hit the drop down here and choose URL. And then you put the URL in for the YouTube video and hit insert. And then when the employee is following it, they just click the link and it takes them to the video.
Okay.
Are you a member of Nexstar?
Now,
You're not?
no, I started a program called Home Service Freedom Home Service or Home Service Freedom.
Uh-huh.
It's a brand new program, and I think that Michael said he had originally met with Al Levy a few years ago about doing it, and he didn't end up doing business with you guys. And
Mhm.
then there was another fella who's all the people who are running this program right now have already brought their businesses from like I'm going to say a guy in a truck to like over $100 million.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, I want to go there.
Okay.
And in
Well,
my opinion, this is like a foundation that you need to have in place, or you'll never go anywhere
yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
because you can't scale that unless you have this, in my opinion.
Right, right, for sure. Um,
So
in another few weeks, there'll be a whole session or two sessions on the process tools here. Well, I'll show you some more real life examples of, putting in screenshots, doing links and all that stuff.
I'm sure
Uh,
we'll have some homework tonight.
yeah. All right, so next week we are going to be talking about the organization chart. Um, we're not just going to be talking about how to build the chart because that's easy. Everybody can do that without an explanation. What we're really going to be focusing on is how to build an organizational strategy. So what that means is an org chart that helps you implement your business strategy. It helps you to see how your business is going to grow. It helps you to see how to departmentalize things. It helps you to see who does what. It can sometimes even help you if you have people with that you have a lot of dependency on and they're spanning the organization chart with all kinds of work that they're doing. It can help you reorganize all of that. So in my opinion, it's like one of the most foundational tools. It's a simple tool, but very relevant and important for a business. So next week, we're going to talk about how to build the chart and how to use it as a strategy tool. So thank you for coming, everybody. And I'll be here next week, same time, same place. Take care.